Hi, welcome. This is Womb Magic. I am your host, Ariel Myers, with a very special guest today, Karina Maria Tibble. I'm like a white girl trying to roll my R's, and I realize I have no R roll. So, Karina Maria is a psychotherapist turned feminine archetype guide, born in Colombia and settled in the Rocky Mountains near me. She is passionate about supporting women finding their true north by aligning their life with their unique expression of personal sovereignty. She offers one-on-one mentorships and group programs to wise women worldwide. And I feel fortunate to say that I've gotten to participate and am participating in one of those groups. So welcome, Karina Maria. Thank you for being here.
It's good to be here.
So we are going to start with a little grounding and centering meditation, which Karina Maria said she would hold for us. And I feel like it feels important. We both know that one of kind of the specialties of women is in really connecting from our bodies and our spirits and our hearts. And I know myself, I have the tendency to kind of get up in my head wanting to make sure we say the right thing. And so this feels like a good opportunity to just really center in and connect with each other, and for the listener to really trust that whatever medicine or healing is meant to be received today will be received. So thank you.
Great. Begin by closing our eyes if it feels comfortable. You can always keep a soft, open gaze as well. And feeling your breath, feeling the way the air comes in, brushing up against your nostrils, all the way into your belly. And then as you relax, release, you visualize this beautiful flower opening up, softening your entire body. Inhaling, you fill yourself up with life force. Exhale, you soften, relax. Locating this beautiful heart flower in your body. Maybe it wants to be in your heart space. Maybe it wants to be in your womb space, yoni space. And visualizing, feeling into the power of this center. Feeling the in-breath. Embrace and kiss this center. And then with the out-breath, notice how it is to relax into this space. Not forcing anything, simply bringing awareness. And a willingness to receive what is here, receive what is unfolding. And now bringing one hand on your heart center and one hand on your womb center. Feeling the presence of your palms on these two energy centers, these two superpowers. Allowing your hands to bring deeper presence and welcome you into this moment, into this space, into this conversation. Thanking yourself for taking your seat today. And slowly bringing your eyes open.
Thank you. I feel so much more in my body. It feels hard to start talking after that.
It's amazing, huh? What a minute of dropping
Yeah,
in.
like slow down. Oh, well, I felt like I wanted to start by just kind of filling the eventual listener into our friendship, how we know each other. So it's been like, what, 3 years, I feel? I'm not sure exactly, but we are in a group together, a group that meets once a month to just kind of connect and talk and share and experience connection and togetherness. And I feel like, especially over the past few years, I've just really like witnessed you um, unfold and unfurl and kind of really like claim your devotion to this medicine that feels like you is yours to share. And it feels like it's been really beautiful to witness. And I also feel like part of one of the things you talk about in the women's group that you're hosting is this oh shoot, what did you say? You wrote it down. It's hard for me to get. I wrote it down. Let me find it. Unapologetic blooming, right? That's hard for me to remember. But I feel like it really,
that's just patriarchy inside.
right? I'm like, what is that? What, I'm not apologizing for that. Right. I'm sorry. Let me go. Unapologetic blooming. And it really, that was one of the things, like watching you just do this and really claim it as yours is one of the things that made me decide to like do this podcast and just see what happens. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be or what it's going to lead to, or just the doing it unapologetically feels like the medicine. So thank you for that gift. And thank you for being
landed for you. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, it has. And when I was thinking about, I was kind of sitting with this coming up and just thinking about you, and I realized that it occurred to me that even though we've spoken a bunch of times, um, I know you're born and raised in Colombia. Um, I feel like I have this idea of Colombia, probably just because of you. Like I know you, so I have this idea that might be kind of manufactured that Colombia is like a land that's very rich in connection to the earth and to the archetypes of like the mama, and I realized that I don't know if that's accurate. So I figured I would ask you instead of just assume.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for asking that. It's not a question I get often. And, I would say it's both. It's Colombia per se is a very fertile and beautiful land where Colombians are incredibly attached to it and to her. And there is this deep sense of patriotism that manifests in many ways, some healthy and some not healthy ways. But at the root, and especially if we go back to the wisdom of the indigenous peoples of Colombia, there is an undoubted constant communion with the archetype of the Great Mother,
Hmm.
and a willingness to live in devotion to her, and
Hmm.
a willingness to love the feminine in all of her manifestations. So that's like the more people piece of it. Like we have to dig into the roots because the Western culture has definitely gotten to us. I mean, and there is that disconnect for many. But the source of the wisdom and the actual being in the land is incredibly lush and welcoming and nourishing and feminine in a way that I have not experienced in other countries.
Hmm. So it's interesting, actually. Do you feel like moving to the States, did you move straight to Colorado? Was it like your first?
Mhm.
So did you feel like landing here and experiencing our version of patriarchal society, was it like shocking to you, or um, was it like a familiar feeling?
Mhm. It was familiar,
Hmm.
definitely familiar, more accentuated in certain things, softer in different things.
Hmm.
Um, but I do know one thing I will name that felt quite different. And just going back to that Great Mother archetype and that devotion of the sacred feminine that manifests in Colombia constantly is that sense of tribe
Hmm.
that really comes from the ancestors, right? Even before the Europeans came, this idea of interconnection and um, like collectivism over individualism.
Hmm.
So moving here to Colorado, which is an incredibly masculine state to me, anyways. It's dry, it's prickly, it's beautiful, but the energy of it is definitely not that lush motherly
Hmm.
energy that Colombia holds in her different habitats. Um, but that was the individualist thread was, I think, what shocked me most about the patriarchal flavor here. Like I'm
Hmm.
on my own and I have to do it and I have to prove all this stuff and um, so much loneliness and disconnect from that greater web. That's why when we were invited to join the group we've been in for 3 years,
I was just thinking that.
that it spoke to a longing. I had been at that point living in the States for 8 years. And that invitation that our friend Hannah extended was exactly what my soul was longing for. This idea of just gathering and that commitment to gather, it's unquestionable. And so that's a flavor that I've really felt here and see the difference.
That's so interesting because I didn't even realize I was feeling that longing. I was just raised in a sense of individualism. Is that what you called it? Individualism? um, but yeah, I don't even think I recognized it as such. And then when I was invited to the group, it was like an immediate yes, even the unknown of it, like what it would be or what we would talk about, just the
Right.
allowing for it to unfold. So I'm glad you were a part of it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you kind of really, I don't even want to use the word expert because that feels kind of masculine. We should think of a better word. We need to like relanguage, right? So
That's such
much
an
of our
important
language.
part of this
Yeah,
is relanguaging.
yeah.
I've been updating my website and I was trying to find a word because I'm an archetype nerd. I'm an archetype geek. I don't want to say I'm an archetype expert. I think I came with connoisseur,
I
and
like that.
it
Yeah.
feels more explorational.
And it's also like something about the senses, like a connoisseur of, it's like you're experiencing knowing. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, well, what you are a connoisseur of is these feminine archetypes. And especially in my fertility work, one of like the chapters of my, I'll do a shameless plug of my course, the Fertile Mama Fertility Fix, is this maiden to mother journey. And I didn't even know that when we did your woman's circle, that would be a big section on the maiden and the mother. So I was hoping, it feels so important, not just for women who are wanting to get pregnant, but for any woman who really wants to feel like the creatrix of her life, like she is creating the life as a mature mother, like as a woman. So I was hoping that you could maybe, you language things so beautifully. You're like very poetic when you speak. So I felt like you could just kind of share your insights on the maiden to mother work. And if some of the wise woman comes into, that will be fine.
Great. I love it. Yes, it's such. So, the first thing I'll say is that to me, the intentional transition from maiden to mother is a rite of passage that is beckoning us. And I get chills as I speak it because I feel like many of us, most of us, hear that calling, have that longing. It's like that longing that when Hannah invited you to join the group, you were like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And in that same way, it's a rite of passage in a world where most rites of passages have died or we don't have enough of, and our soul craves them. And so, to me, after years of dancing with these two archetypes, what the journey is about is, first of all, recognizing that the maiden has two aspects: the unhealthy and the healthy aspect. And that the work is in learning to transform, or a word I like to use is sacrifice, which actually means to make sacred, which is really beautiful, the aspects of her that keep us disempowered, that keep us living from the outside in versus the inside out, so that we can allow the archetype of the great mother or that inner mother to be who leads our life, so that we can really turn towards mothering that um, baby, that spirit baby that is calling us, that we're longing to embody and bring through, or that we can embody a creative project, or that we can embody and be the leader we're here to be, or be the family, um, the head of the family in whatever way, right? It's more about that idea of mothering our life and mothering our visions, so that we are deeply in service of our medicine, of our calling. And so the way we really work on with this, it's by mothering with a lot of love, no shame, the wounded parts of the maiden, and understanding and helping her understand that she can let go of those aspects, of those strategies, of those tendencies to blame, of that desire to be rescued. That goes back to all the Disney stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like the beautiful maiden, just either dead for years or asleep for years, waiting to be kissed by this handsome prince. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely irrelevant. It sounds nice, but so what? The prince comes, and what has she become? No, no. So it's this beautiful reclamation and the self-responsibility of noticing that comes with noticing the ways we've perpetuated that living from the outside in, which is
Mm-hmm.
very influenced by patriarchy.
Right. It's not like we have representations of what it means to evolve and grow into a healthy mother. And the witch that she meets in those fairy tales in the deep dark woods is like this feared uh, character, and we don't really have a sense of what an older wise woman who we might meet might be. And the
Right.
woods, of course, is our own inner story.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you said the tendency to blame and the tendency to be rescued, but for somebody who hasn't really heard before of this idea of the maiden, will you share some of your ideas of like the wounded maiden's way of behaving versus like what a healthy maiden might look like?
Mhm. Sure. So often the wounded maiden in her pain is wanting external validation to feel that she's okay, to feel that she belongs, to feel that she's safe. And we need to understand that there's an important element here of compassion when we recognize that these strategies that she runs in order to feel all these things come from a deep place of surviving, of wanting to belong. And yet she doesn't get nourished by these strategies. She keeps giving her power away. So, in a relationship, for example, it's the woman that really, really wants to move towards, um, I don't know, getting a degree or painting the wall purple or whatever creative impulse, because that is being a feminine creature, to have creative impulses. And we've been conditioned to simmer them down, to not listen to them, right? So when that comes, the partner, if it's a heterosexual relationship, right, like the partner says, no, you can't, that won't work, or oh, I have this vision of this dream, or da da da, or I'm starting to feel ready to become a mother. No. And so the maiden says no, okay, and she brings her head down and she says no, she lets that dream die. Whereas the healthy aspect of the maiden, she is creative. She is in her, she is in, I like to think of her as like a spring river, right? She's so fertile, and she is fertile with ideas and dreams, and she's beautiful, and she has her flower crown, and she loves and is tuned into the erotic. And the erotic means life force. And so from that place, this idea comes, and she listens to it, she follows it, and then she allows the great mother to come and help her birth it. So it's this relationship. When the maiden is in her woundedness, she shuts down and doesn't open to that sacred reciprocity with the great mother archetype that can help her birth whatever it is, from the purple wall to a child, to the journey of conceiving, to, right, it's all a relationship. And the maiden says, I can't. The maiden says, I won't. The maiden says, I don't look good enough, or I'm not experienced enough, or whatever other story um, that she's convinced of, that patriarchy in a way has convinced her of. And instead, the healthy aspect of the maiden embraces it and reaches out for that support from the great mother to come in. And in that reaching out of the support, not to complicate it much more, but the wise woman is born.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that. I mean, I had a few thoughts while you're talking, but one of them was like, um, this feels like, to do this, it almost like it's like we need both time to even recognize that we're feeling the longing, or recognize that we have the desire. Like, so many of our kind of creative art endeavors are seen as like not being productive, or like not kind of seen as valuable in the world. Like, they might not be things that might make us money, like writing a poem or painting the wall. Like, it almost feels like a waste of time from the patriarchal sense. But it's that allowing for that to happen kind of allows that energy to flow through us that then we can birth, whether it's a baby or creative ideas or passion. And I feel like often so many young women or maidens, like you were saying, are like waiting for that permission from somebody else,
Ooh, yeah.
for somebody to give us permission. And then we kind of get stuck in that maiden version of ourselves, even as we are aging. So I'm sure both of us know women who are our age or older than us who are still kind of in that maiden form of like waiting for permission, for somebody to give us permission to like bloom, right? So
Unapologetically blue.
unapologetic bloom.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big piece around this remothering work that I really like to emphasize on, this idea that we need to, and need is not even a word I like. Again, it's like out of the dictionary, but there's an invitation when we say yes to this path. There's an invitation to commit to carve out the spaces, to let this energy do us as much as we're doing it, right? I love to think about bringing this, relating to the archetype, which is a big force, a force that is beyond what we can conceive, and calling her in and making dates with her. And it can be like today, the way I'm going to honor my maiden and I'm going to honor the inner mother is to lay on the grass and look at clouds. Or I'm going to bring out my sketch pad and just begin to doodle and see what comes. Or I'm feeling so much love and these beautiful words are coming. I'm going to write a poem. And that willingness to carve out that space. And sometimes it'll be super fertile and sometimes it won't. But it's that slowing down, like you said, and giving ourselves that space to recognize that there's a different way. And the more we tune into that different way, the more it guides our life and our creations.
Hmm. Whew, I just like getting chills when you're speaking. But I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about, because you said the remothering work, and I kind of know what that is. So, but I'm not sure that the listener or the watcher will know what that looks like. Or you spoke to it a little bit, like just calling in this inner mother, creating this inner mother. But if someone doesn't really know what that great mother energy archetype looks like, how would you kind of introduce that?
Yeah, I would say that the work of remothering ourselves is the work of really being willing to go to the root of our beliefs and our behaviors and our relationships and understand the very subconscious messages and agreements that we've made from a very young age and see how those are getting in the way of our blooming, of our rising. And so often part of the work, not for all of us, but for many of us, is to navigate our own personal relationship with our mothers. Because she was mama. She was our north when we were little. And so from that connection, we learned a lot about what it was to be woman, what it was to be human being and have needs and have longings. And so doing the work of actually untangling from those messages and rooting into what is actually true. And the reason why I love to weave in the archetypes is because they're helpers. They're helpers that come along and show up and help us, support us in this birthing, in this journey of discovering and nurturing a relationship with our inner mother so that our north isn't patriarchy and all the shoulds, so that our north is not what we learned from our mother and our family of origin, which, it's not about blaming them, but about recognizing the way it's impacted us. And with that personal sovereignty, align ourselves with what is actually more true on a soul level.
Hmm. Yeah, one of the things I think I shared with you was that in in kind of recognizing that my mother and my mother's mother and my mother's mother were all daughters of the patriarchy. And so wounded by this very toxic masculinity that's purpose was to make them smaller, kind of allowed me to really not only forgive them, but to recognize that my healing would kind of ripple outwards and heal then, and almost to like envision this mama, this great mama that hadn't been wounded and made smaller and diminished by the patriarchy. And in that I could almost see what a healthy masculine relationship would look like, in reverence of the mama
Of
and the
her.
feminine.
Right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that was the goddess for thousands of years. She was this life-giving, absolutely magnificent mama that embodied all those qualities of motherhood that our mothers did not get. And it was intentional, it was a programming. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that you can name the compassion, because the moment we can see that, we don't need that to be different. We don't even need our mama to be our birth mother to be different, but we can actually offer the lineage a healing in allowing ourselves to open up to a different way of mothering, which is the great mother archetype, which is the earth in her abundant love, unconditional abundant love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we talked about the maiden and the mother, and it feels incomplete if we don't speak a little bit to the wise women, which you did. But I feel you started talking about this kind of intentional and purposeful erasure of wise women, like grown women from our collective consciousness. And I'm reading this wonderful book called Crone by Barbara Walker that I recommend for everyone to read, and also have read When God Was a Woman, which I feel like also by Marlon Stone, which I had no idea, that I mean, I was raised Jewish, but never really felt any kind of connection to that religion. And to feel like there's this whole herstory, her story before that was just erased, or like turned into something else, or a saint was put before someone's name, and it was kind of patriarchalized. So much of that is like this wise woman does not exist in our experience, other than the witch, the witch who was destroyed and erased, and kind of seen as evil and to be feared, kind of sent to the shadows.
Yeah. Evil and dangerous.
So
Dangerous.
dangerous.
So in
She's so dangerous.
so dangerous. We internalized that idea, that being in touch. So, first of all, what does witch mean? If we go to the root of that word in the Wiccan tradition, witch means wise healer woman.
See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And so when we can even just open up to, instead of associating witch with all of that conditioning that we've come to associate it with, evil, like hag that will like really, really, really hurt you if you get near. Instead, wise healer woman is that aspect of our psyche that knows her medicine, that knows how to heal herself so she can heal the world through being herself. Our medicine, right? When I use that word, it's not something outside of us that we need to go and claim or pay for. It's something that we are born with. And then through life, and if we say yes to it, we can, it's like we're fanning it. and the fire of our medicine grows and grows. And then there's the sacred reciprocity that we nourish it, and then it nourishes us in whatever way is aligned and feels like a yes. So the wise woman, the wise healer woman, is that aspect of ourselves that is older and is an elder. And part of the patriarchal trance was to really fear aging, fear that version of ourselves. And if we can actually turn towards her as a pillar of wisdom, and wisdom doesn't come from the intellect, it actually comes from uninterrupted periods away from the intellect. True wisdom comes from being. True wisdom comes from listening. True wisdom comes from letting your body feel the pleasure of the sunrise, of the birdsong. That aspect of ourselves is incredibly nourishing. Once we claim it and stop perceiving it as dangerous or outdated or kind of something to fear because its manifestation has wrinkles. It's actually reverence because she's lived. And even if we're 20, we have a wise woman inside, that witchy wise woman. And I think that a big part of our work as women doing this work and just like hearing the calling to rise and bring life through us in whatever way that means is to reclaim that word witch. And, I am a witch remembering. I am a witch reclaiming. And every time we hear the word witch and we feel all the dangers, like it's like a movie. We see it here, all the evil ways that we've associated it. And instead we reclaim, we reframe, and we run the movie of the healer. She who heals herself, she knows what she needs and tends to that medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it has occurred to me, and it does occur to me that me doing my work, as an herbalist and an acupuncturist and a womb healer, womb worker, regardless of what I called myself back in the burning times, or I would have been called a witch, identified as a witch.
Oh, yes, you would.
So I am a witch remembering. And I have to say, I want to share this with you because it's meaningful, is that I'm going to start crying. I feel like there are, in my life, there are certain kind of almost like riverbanks, like I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path, and just having you in my life and knowing you feels like I know I'm on my path. And I don't even want to say someone like you. I mean, you're like so magical and so beautiful. And I'm seriously getting teary eyed because it's just a gift to get to witness you claim your magic in this world and watch you kind of share that with others, including myself. So thank you so much, wise woman.
Thank you, sister. Deeply received. We need each other.
Yeah. And I feel like, sisterhood is one of those things that I wasn't raised with, like when I had friends, a lot of friends growing up, but I never quite felt confident that they weren't talking about me behind my back when I wasn't there. And they probably were. And I was talking about people behind their back because that was just what I learned and what I knew and what was modeled for me. And it's kind of like a real, like we need to call in the mother, we need to call in, I think, women who we can trust and we can support, and we need to be deserving of that trust and support too, and really witnessing each other in our fullness, and not feeling like she's getting too big, that threatens me, or so it feels like just calling it in and calling it in. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast and call in the women and let the listeners know that we're out there and
so glad you
find us. Yeah. So I'm going to share your website.
Great.
Every time I say your name, I feel self-conscious because
you're saying it perfect. It's the way you say
capacity to roll my R's. I like practice it and I can't do it. Karina Maria Counseling, right? And
well,
then
actually, I've updated it.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to say, I think you have for your women's group, right? And your
well, it's I shifted it before the women's group started, and it's KarinaMaria.Love.
I love that.
Counseling is not it anymore. It's the love. Just different ways of supporting women one-on-one.
Yeah, we had that discussion about like the words. I think the language is a big thing because we recognize it's like incomplete and it's kind of based in patriarchy. So I was giving up the word healer, and you were giving up the word counselor, right?
Healer and psychotherapist. Yeah.
And so did you settle on one? I'm looking at
my bio.
Feminine archetype guide. Was that it?
For now, it's feminine archetype guide. Yeah, that's the one that's landing.
Okay.
And I sense it's going to shift, but guide or mentor.
And connoisseur of all things.
Connoisseur, not of all, but some that I love. One thing I will say that I think is so beautiful that you spoke to, and why we need each other, is because many of us would have been, or were witches. And the way we heal is through sisterhood and through shifting all of those stories and perceptions of being dangerous and being too big and being too much and being too powerful. No such thing. So that right there is just, it's like, it's deep medicine for that one of us that for a long time felt she had to stay small, she had to hide, she had to blend in. It wasn't safe to be that. So that's, if anything, I mean, there's many gifts of sisterhood, but that to me is the essence.
And it feels like so many of us couldn't even perceive that that was what we were doing. It was just, I need to lose weight, or I need to be smaller, and I'm too emotional, or all the things. So
yeah,
just allowing for. Well, one day we have it on our, it's on our schedule. Oh, it's not scheduled. It's in our timeline that we will dance, right, in Colombia.
Yes.
Around a fire.
Yes.
Under a full moon.
It's going to be fantastic.
Can't wait.
If you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear more like it, be sure to subscribe, and I hope you'll rate and review as well. To learn more about how to connect with and explore your fertility, visit wisdomofthewomb.online.com and learn more about my fertility enhancing 12-week program at fertilelikeamother.com. Thanks so much for joining.